Hey everybody, welcome back. This is GitHub in Focus, joining you on Friday. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us this week. We really appreciate your time. We've got a really good session lined up for you today. This is getting traction with GitHub Actions. A couple of really good experts going to have a deep dive, very audience driven on getting the best out of automation with GitHub Actions. So thanks for joining us. My name's Martin Woodward. I'm a Senior Director of Developer Relations here at GitHub. And I'm going to take you through, introduce you to the week and get you started on this fantastic last session of the week. Now, don't worry if you're just joining us today. We have had a bunch of events during the week. Where were you? You know, we have had lots of people who've been with us here the whole week, though, asking plenty of questions. So I appreciate you doing that. We really, really do appreciate you taking the time. On Tuesday, we had a good session with Dana Lawson, diving into GitHub, the platform, and how to use it to build innovation in your teams and, you know, minimize the friction, improve the best developer experience you can have for your organization, all that sort of thing. Really good questions there. There were a ton of questions actually, though, about actions that we weren't able to get answered. So those questions are going to actually, you feel free to bring those questions back up again today, but hopefully the team are going to do a great job showing you everything there as well. Then on Wednesday, we had another brilliant session. Really, really enjoyed that conversation with Brittany Ice-Tennis from Comcast. And Brittany was talking about how Comcast have been using inner source and kind of some of the practices they've learned there to improve communication around their organization and really modernize their development teams and, you know, join everybody up and get rid of silos and improve development at Comcast. So definitely check out that session if you haven't watched it already. Yesterday, we had a roundtable discussion that was Chatham House rules. So it was basically not recorded. And so everybody could chat and have a conversation in a safe space, share their experiences, you know, explain like things that they've been through. So that session isn't available, I'm afraid. You had to tune in live for that one. But today's session will be available on demand. So you'll be able to log in and see this one, share it with your colleagues. If you go to infocus.github.com after the event, then you'll be able to go get all the videos on demand. But don't worry if you've forgotten all that stuff. We'll be able to go in and just get an email and access that in your inbox as well. If you're having any trouble with the platform, try hitting refresh on the browser first of all. Also, maybe you can, you know, check no ad blockers, all that sort of thing on the platform as well. If there's any questions, then what you can actually do is go to the documentation tab and get in there, and you can access any tutorials, any help links, that sort of thing from the docs tab. You could also email our partner Goldcast with any support questions about the platform. Now, you'll see up in the screen, up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there is a little book a meeting button. If for some reason the amazing experts we have for you today aren't able to answer all your questions, or if you've got questions that aren't about GitHub Actions but something else to do with GitHub, then click on that little book a meeting button, and somebody from the GitHub team will be in contact shortly to arrange a meeting and have a chat with you. So definitely take advantage of that. Right. Let's get into the session. We've got, as I say, a brilliant session coming up now after the housekeeping side, which I forgot to show you. Never mind. We have Eric Johnson is going to be talking to us. Eric is a senior solutions engineer here at GitHub. And so Eric is part of a team that go out and they help customers really use actions. Joining Eric is Jonathan Cardona, and Jonathan is also a solutions engineer here at GitHub. And remember, these are true experts on the whole of GitHub, but in particular GitHub Actions. And these are people who are in the field all day, helping customers really using the product, not just, you know, doing demos and pretending to use the product like I do, but actually really using it, knowing which bits of the system work great, which bits maybe you want to, you know, there's some gotchas around and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure they'll share all those things with us. But without further ado, actually, let's bring the team in. So I'm going to go here and bring the team in, and then we'll get started on what is promising to be a fantastic session. Sorry, I've just realized, do that, hit that button there. There we go. I've got you now, guys. Thanks for joining us here. Yeah.
Hey,
well, Yeah, have a great session, and I'll let you introduce yourselves to the team. Remember, everybody, to use that Q&A tab in the top right-hand corner of the screen there to ask any questions. And these videos will be on demand at infocus.github.com after the event, so you can download them there. Right, I'll hand over to you now. Take care, team.
Hey, thanks, Martin. That is super. I'm Eric.
Absolutely. Eric, hey, man. I'm John. Nice to meet you.
Right. And we have got a bunch of stuff to share here about GitHub Actions. In fact, when we putting this together, so both Jonathan and I are solutions engineers at GitHub. It means we were working in the field, largely as part of the sales team, with customers to really take advantage of GitHub, the platform generally. And as you can imagine, Actions, well, they're kind of popular. And we see a lot of questions about how to sort of make the most of them. We're going to focus today on Actions, not so much for the usual stuff, not so much for the defaults, the continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD jobs. Those are there. Actions are great for them. If you get started with Actions by the defaults, they'll get you set up to do that. Today, though, we're really going to hone in on how to do other kinds of stuff. All right. So ready to go. You're going to see me for a little bit, Jonathan for a little bit. We'll switch back and forth, and we're going to have a couple polls for you around just what your experience level with Actions is, and also kind of what you want to hear about. So more about those here in a second. Are we ready, Jonathan?
Absolutely. Let's
all right,
get
here
off,
we go.
brother.
All right. Automate anything with GitHub Actions. Let's kind of start at the beginning here. So really, when we talk about Actions, what are we talking about? What are they? And you know, I like to think about Actions really as this sort of thing, right? An incredible machine for doing, of course, running tests and building software in automated ways, but also for interacting and doing a whole bunch of other stuff on the GitHub platform. And that other stuff, you know, we're talking to teams and sort of in our lives as developers, there's a lot of things that we do, particularly if we're working with shared libraries or in open source or inner source workflows. There's an awful lot of stuff that we sort of wind up doing, needing to do, that aren't exactly just writing tests, running tests. You know, stuff like this sort of thing, perhaps welcoming new contributors to projects, keeping up with sort of issues, whether that's a matter of closing stale ones or you know, kind of keeping up to date, a whole bunch of, you know, kind of community or coordination kind of jobs, if you will. And GitHub Actions help us do all sorts of this sort of stuff, whether it's drafting release notes, creating to-dos, you know, those to-do notes that we like to leave in code and so forth. Well, GitHub Actions can help create issues from those. There's a whole variety of stuff that we're going to do, and we're going to look in on that today. Again, when we talk about Actions and we talk about being able to run a workflow here on any GitHub event, a lot of these are issue, pull request, project board style events, and that's really, really where we're going to hone in. I think let's get started here just with a little bit of a demo here that we like to show. This is a demo that Jonathan and our colleagues have put together. We'd like to use this, one, because it makes a great demo. Also, it's a very, very helpful sort of how to get started with GitHub generally. And I want to point out a couple things about it. So this is a repository. You can have access to this. This is public. This is out in the Octo Demo organization out on GitHub. We use this internally for a bunch of customer-facing demos. This is a repository called Awesome Action. It's public. You can use it. It's a template. So to get started here, I'm just going to go ahead and grab a copy of this. And we're going to show you how this serves to kick off a whole bunch of workflows. Now, I can make my copy public or private. Doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and do public here. You can come in and check it out here if you want to. Takes a minute. What's happened so far has absolutely nothing to do with Actions at all. GitHub allows us to set a repository as a template, let folks in the organization here to go ahead and use it. And doing that will do things like this, that will pre-populate it with the contents of the repository. And that contents could be the contents here of README, That contents could be, some scripts here that we might want to use, need to use in this case. And the contents of that template can also be here, GitHub Actions and GitHub Actions workflows. And that part of this in particular is what I want to hone in on here for a minute. We've got, in this case, if we go and take a look, all right, issue yet here. Okay, got a number here of pull requests that have been created. Many of these happening here just simply with Dependabot, but also with some very specific and curious actions in place. A little welcome message here for our first-time contributor, Dependabot. It's the first time Dependabot's contributed to this repository, so here we go. In fact, what this sort of starter setup workflow here has done here is done a bunch of things from the one-time setup. We created a welcome issue here that's cranking right now on the action side, created a project board as well and populated that with the columns here that we'd like to. And we've gone ahead also and created a bunch of actions workflows that do things like keep an eye on issues and close them after a time with a little bit of a warning to sort of, surface that issue, elevate that issue. Greet first-time contributors when they make a pull request with that fabulous GIF. And this action. And this one in particular is well worth looking at. You saw the output of this. This is, we are adding cat GIFs to our pull request. It's not this one, it's this one. Celebratory cat GIFs. Let's take a look here, because when we talk about actions and the kind of the what goes behind them and so forth, the workflows, the actions, this one is fabulous thing to look at just to get started. We have our classic parts here in actions, a workflow, the glue that pulls various actions in. This workflow here is running every time we have a pull request. We have grab an agent here, a runner for this to run on out of our cloud, in this case, just a Linux agent. And in our case, we are using a third-party action here, the fabulous action cats here. This lives out in a GitHub repository, as you might imagine. So I'm just pasting the path to that out here, and we can see this particular third-party action, how it works, what it does, an example of how to use it. And if we would like to tweak this to, for example, include a dog GIF in pull requests, the code here is available. This is available to fork to adapt for our own uses. But I don't know, Jonathan. I kind of think here that the cat GIF is really the way to go. I don't think that can really be improved upon.
No, I think we've reached perfection in regards to that, 100%.
Hey, let's pull up here. I got a question for the audience, real quick. Let's go ahead and throw a first kind of poll question up here. And I know you're going to kind of kick us off here on this next section. But one of the things that, again, that kind of just super overview, the parts and pieces, I want to go into that a little bit more, but what's going to be very helpful to us to know is where you're coming from. What sort of experience here do you have with actions? Is this all brand new? Because we've got a bunch of stuff that we talk about there. We also want then to kind of give you a bit of a tour of, Jonathan, I wouldn't call this my favorite actions, because cat GIF on PRs is my favorite action. I'm sorry. So you've already seen that. But we've got an awful lot of sort of actions techniques here that we can share with you based on where you're coming from here. We'll go as deep as we should.
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
That looks pretty good.
All right, I think we're done with the poll. So the majority of individuals, this is all brand new to you. And that's okay. Action's pretty much brand new to many people out there. And what an action is composed of is what we call a workflow. The workflow is the YAML glue that make actions go. You cannot have an action without a workflow. Think of it as a code behind your application. So let's take a look at the contrast between the two different terms really quick. Actions are the composable components in public repositories. So when you reference a particular action in your workflow, whether it be throwing cat gifts into a PR or creating a release, that's what you're getting. But behind the scenes, what you're going to see is YAML files composing up those actions. So it kind of cascades, it's actionception, if you will. The workflows are the glue that kind of holds the composable components together. They're comprised of steps and things of that nature. And we'll get a little bit into that in the upcoming slides. First and foremost, however, before you have the idea to go create your own action for a particular workflow or a particular automation, go and check the GitHub Marketplace. This screenshot shows 7,270 results. And this screenshot was taken, a few days ago. As of literally right now, there are 7,370 results. So 100 actions have been added to the marketplace since the screenshot here was taken and right now. So chances are what you're looking to do already exists. Things like setting up Jira, things like pushing your Docker image to, GitHub package registry, or pushing an NPM package to a node package to NPM, whatever you want to do. And even outside of the technical things, you can find actions on the marketplace that do functionality like prevent curse words from showing up inside of your issues. It varies. I highly recommend going to the marketplace, doing a search, because you'll be very surprised on what you could potentially find there. However, if you do decide to go the other route and create your own action, what you're going to see when you click the Actions tab are a list of suggestions, and that list is built based on the code base that your repo is mainly made up of. So in this particular screenshot, you'll see workflows made for your JavaScript repository. Publish Node.js package, Node.js that allows, it will build, run CI, and run tests. Then testing your Deno project, Those are only 3 because we can only fit 3 into the screenshot, but you'll see plenty more if you actually just click the Actions tab on your repo prior to having, any actions created, or if you click New Workflow. Now, speaking of workflows, I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to confuse anyone based on the poll. This is new to most of the audience. So I'm going to focus on these yellow boxes right here. A workflow consists of multiple things, but from a simple hello world perspective, you need at least a few things, okay? The yellow box number 1, for instance, is referring to the event that GitHub pushes that's going to kick off that workflow. So for instance, enforce repository settings is going to be kicked off on any push. Anytime an individual pushes any commit to the repository, this workflow is going to run. Now, you can run it on things like push, pull requests, issues. It's pretty much limitless based on what you can do or what you can react upon. The second yellow box shows you how to run shell scripts so that you don't need to create this entirely, elaborate application just to run a single script. You can do that directly within your action here. And this particular shell script is just removing a YAML file. You can do plenty of things. Whatever type of thing you can think of to run in a shell script, chances are you can run them here. Yellow box number 3 kind of shows how to use existing actions in your workflow. So for instance, committing changes, we're using Eric's action.js build /commit action. And if you notice at the end of that uses statement, you'll see @v2. That pertains to the tag/branch that you're trying to target. So, if you wanted to run it on, main, it would say @main or @master. If you want to run it on a particular release, you can do that as well. If you want to try it out on a beta release, whatever you'd like. And if you notice at the end, the environment variable GitHub token, secrets.github_token, that's something I won't get into right this second. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but that's how you authenticate this action to pull Eric's code to commit those changes.
Hey, Jonathan, we got a bunch of questions out here. Can we take a couple
Absolutely.
of them just real quick? Okay, awesome. I'm gonna put both of our little screens up here for a little bit. All right, we're in little thumbnails here. Some are gonna have to do with these, some don't.
Sure.
Question Gregory asks, GitHub Actions, first off, are GitHub Actions supported on GitHub Enterprise Server?
GitHub Actions
are...
are...
the question a little, Gregory, we're gonna get to it. Sorry, Jonathan.
For an air-gapped enterprise.
No, hold on. Let's start with it. So first question, are GitHub Actions supported on GitHub Enterprise Server?
Well, yes, absolutely. They are supported on GitHub Enterprise Server.
Starting with version 3.0, which is just been released. So GitHub Enterprise Server version 3.0, yes. There are a couple of ways of getting GitHub Actions over onto GitHub Enterprise Server. If that instance is internet connected, we have GitHub Connect that can provide all actions that are available in the marketplace over there onto that appliance. So that is an option in certain security configurations. GitHub's own actions, some of the ones, most of like actions checkout up here in this screenshot, that would be available on GitHub Enterprise Server out of the box. So Enterprise Server ships with that built in. We also have, if you want to pick and choose and only have certain actions come over from the marketplace, we ship a command line utility that can synchronize a certain subset of actions there with Enterprise Server. So those are all possibilities for you if your Enterprise Server is internet connected. Gregory, you asked about air-gapped. Same sort of rules apply, but none of these automatic methods will work for you to get actions over there. So you're going to have to do these manually. Now, again, actions are at this point in public repositories. So how you get that code, fork it, whatever, over to your air-gapped GitHub Enterprise Server instance, Sneakernet is the way I see this done typically, but that will, of course, work.
Well, as you as someone in public sector, you deal with air-gapped probably more than any of us SEs. So his advice is spot on.
Yep, a couple more kind of real quick, and I'm mixing and matching here, so I'm going to rephrase these a little bit here. So Robert asks about a workflow that can be shared among multiple repositories, and a little bit kind of, and then another question that Justin asks here about using actions in private repositories. They're a little bit related.
Right. So sharing a workflow, part of a workflow with multiple repos, that's going to be coming with orgs with centralized workflows. In terms of sharing, are we, I'm wondering if we're talking about sharing the output, if we're sharing the artifacts.
Sorry, let me get it here and we can go. So both of these are on the roadmap, they're on the public roadmap.
Right.
The idea of sort of workflow templates where you've got a centralized set of workflows here that you can grab a copy and put that in place, that is coming very, very soon now. The idea of more widely shared workflows and the idea of being able to run actions in private repositories also on the roadmap, but those are marked here as future. So it's coming, we're working on it, but that's going to take a little bit longer in both those cases.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that.
I'll see you in a minute.
So workflows can run multiple ways. They can run on Ubuntu, they can run on Windows, they can run on Mac, they can run on all three in parallel using matrix jobs. Matrix jobs are not being represented in this particular screenshot. However, if you just Google GitHub Actions Matrix, it will probably be the first result you get. Couple things to remember, YAML syntax. And when your jobs are running, you have the ability to go to the Actions tab. You will see a live representation of that job with real-time updates to running logs of that particular job step. As you see kind of right here, just hopping on that really quick, the right-hand side of the screen shows all of the steps within this job, and you will see the logs under each. So, stuff to keep in mind in regards to workflows, events kick them off. You have to have an event to kick off a workflow, otherwise it won't run at all. So within that workflow, after the event happens, if you have no jobs, there's nothing to run. Jobs run in their own VM. So they will run in parallel. However, if you specify that, job 2 depends on job 1 to run, they will then run in a more procedural fashion. If you don't, and you have multiple jobs inside of a workflow, those jobs will run at the same exact time and could potentially break if one relies on the other. Steps run in the same VM, so you can share the file system. If you produce artifacts in a few steps, then you can share them with steps later down the line. Logs are searchable as well, and within those logs, you can get a permalink and share that permalink. Let's say something errors out with a coworker if you need help trying to debug what happened. If that's not enough, you can save the logs as an artifact and forward them on to your team for further research.
Now, right. Why don't we kind of let's get specific, here at this point. And let me go ahead. Actually, let's put another poll question up here. What we brought, at this point, we've sort of brought, if you will, a little bit of a cookbook or a little bit of sort of actions that we've seen, that we've worked with, that are very, very helpful for sort of specific areas. And we're happy to share sort of about all of this sort of stuff. But if you hop on over to the polls, let us know. We'll kind of prioritize these based on what you'd like to see. And I would say, calling this, it sure looks like releases and change logs are looking popular.
Yeah, and unfortunately, pithy robotic responses to every command are, there's 5%.
Well, we're going to show that anyway.
Oh, 10. Yeah, for those who don't want to see it, sorry.
All right, let's dive in here. Let's start with releases and change logs. I'm going to pop that off. We're going to hop right on down very specifically here. Yep. Okay. So, again, one of the sort of starting points around actions are what do we have with actions that's work that we may need to do, and what work has been done by the community, maybe by GitHub, maybe by vendors or the community at large, to be able to do that. And for our release actions here, we've got mix and match here of this, depending on exactly what you need to do. Let's start with create release, which on the one hand here is, I think, the most straightforward of these. But also maybe not quite the most powerful either. This is an action here that GitHub has put together, and it's called create release. What it's looking to do here, in essence, basically, you put this in place when you're pushing, in particular here, when you are pushing to a specific tag. So the idea here is, if you're using kind of releases in a standard GitHub way, you tag your releases as V something, V1.0, V1.1, V2, anything of that sort. With this workflow, this action then would trigger. And in our case, we're doing a couple of things. A couple of these are sort of standard stuff. This is a sort of example stuff here that Jonathan showed in the sample workouts. We grab a copy of the code here. But this is our create release action here at this point. And literally what this is doing is, this is taking template text here that you specify and using it to draft a GitHub release. So again, over on the code tab, go to releases here. specifying both name and body copy of that release. Now, this is great if you want sort of static or templated text. I don't know about you, but in my release land, I would far rather also have a change log. And if you'll notice here, if you want to type the change log, you type first change, second change. You can do that, but that doesn't automate it, that piece of it. So let's come on back and look at a little different example. How about this one? Oops. Yeah, perfect. This is an action here from the marketplace, release with change log. Again, basically, we would run this here. Again, responding here on a tag. This one, though, this action will go on and gather a change log. We'll go ahead and basically sort of take the descriptions from each commit that's included here in this release and publish that as the body of the release notes. So again, an option to be able to do that. This action, again, a little bit more powerful. It also can do templating of your release note body. So if you need to have a standard format up top, that is available here with this. So again, release with change log here out in the marketplace. And I'll just mention, another one, this change log CI. You don't have to create the release. You don't have to create the tag. This one is meant more to listen to a pull request itself and then takes everything from there and does a little bit more sort of sophisticated comparison here in diffing. Again, in this case, much more sort of fleshed out selection of PRs here that should be in a release. But again, quite helpful if you've got a systematic version of that. So again, 3 different ways of creating releases for you automatically. And with this particular one, again, first, least sophisticated, second, moderate sophistication, third one here on this list, more sophisticated yet. All of those can help you automate the release process. All right, what was second here on our list?
Looks like pull requests.
It looks like pull requests.
Yep. All right, so we have quite a bit listed here. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to go through, obviously, action cats, because that's the most important one here from a functionality perspective. But no, when you have PRs and you have individuals on an open source project who are trying to contribute for the first time, the first link at the top, welcome a first time contributor, is an extremely useful action, because a lot of times, you'll find a repo that you are very just passionate about, interested in helping in, and things like that, to where you kind of just fork it, jump in, or you create your own branch on the repo and it lets you and just try to jump in and you create a PR. But there are times where, you may need to read the contributing.md doc to see the proper way to contribute and things of that nature. So having this particular action on your repository is really useful, because it will open up a comment on a PR that's been created, as you can see at the top on pull request. And this uses actions/script at version 3. When you see the uses string, know that the first part before the / is the repo name, and the second part, the org name, and the second part is the repo name. So org actions, repo name, GitHub /script. And what this script allows you to do is allows you to run things like, OctoKit, which is a GitHub CLI wrapper, in the actual script tag here. So we're creating an issue. We're creating an issue for a first-time contributor. We're welcoming them. We're saying, hey, welcome to this repository. Thanks for trying to help out. And you can add whatever you would like to the body of that particular issue, whether it's, go here to see our contributing guidelines, or anything really. And what Eric is highlighting there, github.issues.list for repo.endpoint, GitHub.issues is a context that lives within the script. So you don't need to instantiate any type of GitHub object or things like that. It's all taken care of for you. So this is really great. And at the end of this action, you could see where we create the actual comment. For help on this one, Google OctoKit Node.js, and it'll show you all of the methods that you can use, which is pretty much do anything you want on GitHub with the proper PAT and scope. Okay, so
I don't know though. Jonathan, when I want to do that, I tend to think I want to use this one instead, though. That one looked a little bit complicated. This one is a little bit more my speed. What do you think?
You know what? That's where I was going to kind of go with next. The first interaction. It pretty much resembles, from a functionality perspective, welcome a first-time contributor. However, it's, like you just said, Eric, much more simple. Like, the brevity here is just off the charts. You give it a repo token, you give it an issue message or a PR message, and it figures it out for you. You don't need to do anything like write scripts to create the issue. You don't need to, determine what object functions you need. And in here, you could also throw markdown, as you see in the issue message, the pound symbol that shows heading 1, and the new line symbol and the code block inside the PR message. This is definitely much simpler. However, the welcome first-time contributor action is much more powerful. I don't want to take anything away from this particular first interaction one, but you can do a lot more custom things here if you want. If you want just a much more simpler route, definitely go for the first-time contributor one. So yeah, I mean, those two are wonderful. I see them all over the place, when you're trying to interact. And, the last one that I'll just touch on, again, for the sake of brevity on this page, is automatic rebase. That's extremely useful because when you open a PR, it will rebase it to the default branch. And, it's done based on a / command. And, keep the idea of a / command in mind, because you may see that coming up in a little bit. Hint, hint. This is perfect. So, yeah, I mean, these are just, 5 or 6 different pull request actions that we just listed here on the previous slide. Again, in the marketplace, there's hundreds of them. Just search for whatever you'd like at your heart's content. And, another thing to know is if it's not on the marketplace, if you can't find what you want on the marketplace, do a search on github.com for the topic action, for the topic GitHub action. Those are really two that I can only think of at the moment. But, those 2 topics and just some keywords that you'd like to see. And there's a chance that these actions exist. It's just that the author hasn't uploaded them to the marketplace. And you don't have to publish your actions on the marketplace in order for them to exist. So,
all right. Let's hit repository setup here a little bit. Before we head over there, Jonathan, we got a question here that I think we ought to field. Which sure. Is there an easy way to tell when an action needs to be in master or in a specific branch? Because it seems like sometimes some actions, with their, and this, connects to this idea. Let me come back to one of these. This on event, on push at this point. Sometimes it seems like this workflow might run if we're saved to the main branch. Sometimes it would work on a feature branch. How do we know what's what?
Yeah, I mean, you have the ability to specify the branches you want your action to run on. While it's not being showcased here, there's a branches keyword that you have the ability to specify master, main, release, so on and so forth. And then below, you have the ability to create an if conditional. So, based on that if conditional, you can grab the ref. As I showed you in that last slide with the welcoming first-time contributors, we give you the ability to reference a context inside of a workflow. And I don't want to get too deep, but within that context, you can find the ref. So you can determine if it comes from master, you can determine if it comes from, release 1, feature 1, feature 2, QA, and whatever, and then perform certain steps based on whatever ref/branch it comes from.
And in the way that the kind of shorthand for knowing this, the way I think about it, if the event affects code, so push, pull request, those on keywords, those events will have a branches argument. They'll run on a branch, you specify the branch, poof, that will go. Events here that run on anything sort of issue related or project board related have no knowledge of branches. Branches don't make any sense in that context and are not applicable there. They need to be on your main branch.
That's a great point.
One other question here we got, Jonathan, I'll ask this one. I think I'll answer it. So, but kind of asked, do we support self-hosted runners on Kubernetes? Kubecluster is a specific question here for enterprise server, Kubernetes generally. Support. Self-hosted runners have kind of the building blocks of support for scalability, clustering, and so forth that are built in. So you've got an API that will allow a runner to kind of call the API and register itself. That's, I guess, what I would say is sort of the basic building blocks, here of that. And that is, I believe, supported both on server and on enterprise cloud for self-hosted runners. We're doing a bunch of work around making sort of that more straightforward and sort of play nicely and a little bit more automatic, if you will. But we do not. And there are a number of kind of solutions around, so Google blog posts around that will that provide examples of that kind of setup. We got another question here. How secure is reusing actions from the marketplace? Jonathan, you want to answer that one, or you want me to?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I'm not quite sure what happened with my camera. It just went dark, so forgive me for that.
That's a good look you've got right now. That's a very good look.
Actions are as secure as your security posture states they should be. So what you'll see on the marketplace are actions that some of them have a verified tag, some of them don't. And the verified tag means that we have verified that developer. It doesn't necessarily mean we have verified the action. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We don't go through every action and verify them in the sense of, if we look at the Jira action, we don't verify the fact that some Atlassian engineer, not that they ever would, if there's any on the call, you have the utmost integrity, but we haven't verified that they haven't slipped some code in there to do something malicious. So it's really up to your company's security posture and how you kind of verify whether or not these are secure enough for you. Eric, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Nope. Nope. I would leave it right there. Actually, I will say one more thing. But again, actions that are listed in the marketplace are open source. Those are public repositories. You can examine the code and keep an eye on that. What we see in enterprises that have, let's just say, a little bit more stringent security policies where, hey, we can't run any third-party code here, without, we got to vet it, whatever. It's of course quite possible because these actions are just in public repositories. You can fork those into your own enterprise, your own organization, and there is a policy, a setting there for actions to say, hey, we don't want to allow actions to run unless they're in our organization. Right. That will work fine. They're still in public repositories, they're still available, but in forks, that will work fine. Obviously, enterprises that do this put some security, screening, view, how do you keep those actions up to date? That becomes a little bit of work from that standpoint, but that is a very, very common pattern from that standpoint. And one more little quick question here that we can field here, and then I want to kind of talk about repository setup here, your next issue. or the next thing on. The question is, GitHub Actions different on enterprise server versus enterprise cloud? And the answer is sort of a couple things at this point. So one, with enterprise cloud, the runners are, by default anyway, we provide cloud hosted runners. So you can very simply pick when you say, runs on, I want a Mac OS machine, or I want a Windows machine, or I want a Linux machine, and poof, we provide it. Those are provided out on our cloud. We have lots of scale for that sort of thing in terms of just numbers of machines that are available. On GitHub Enterprise Server, you provide the machines. So you provide sort of self-hosted runners, and you sort of provision and provide that sort of gear, hardware, whatever. You don't, at this point, have the advantage of the sort of GitHub Cloud runners. That is a little bit, certainly that's more work, for your team. But again, trade-offs with GitHub Enterprise Server, that is typically deployed by teams who are familiar with that. The security profile requires it, and yeah, security can be a little bit more work, but those are the trade-offs, and typically those teams have that support. If you're just getting started with Actions, try them with Enterprise Cloud, because it is very, very straightforward just to see this sort of power. All right, Jonathan, I'm going to do quickly repository setup, and then I think we need to respond to having a robot respond to your every command. So very quickly. Good. You saw in kind of our first demo repository setup in the sense of, here's a template repository, let's use that template, I've got a copy, and any workflows that are in that .github/workflows directory, anything in there with an on push event handler will fire. Why? Because when I'm using a repository template, I'm getting a copy, I'm saving a new repository, I'm pushing new code up to GitHub, and any of those will fire. That can handle a bunch of repository setup things. Issue templates can be in there, and you'll get your issue templates. Dependabot sort of configurations and settings, those are saved in a YAML file there in the .github folder. Those will come sort of with that copy. But there's a bunch of stuff here that isn't configured that way by code, that doesn't come over. And that stuff is typically the purview of an app, maybe like a Probot app, like Probot settings. So just to back up, Probot is an application framework. It's kind of built to make it easy to make GitHub apps, and particularly GitHub apps that then will respond to stuff that happens. But like any other app, you need sort of software running somewhere, an instance of Probot here to go ahead and run that. And you can run that out in the cloud. There's the version that we kind of host unofficially, you can use whatever, but you got to have that software running. Probot settings, an app there, is really, really good for one-time setup like branch protection, or setting up labels, or giving teams access to repositories automatically. And you can run Probot settings in Probot if you want to have Probot running all the time. But you can also run it here in an action. And we'll show you here really an example. Here's the action that runs it. Before I show you this, let's just quickly hop over here and look generally at what's the kinds of stuff that Probot settings, the app that's doing hard work here, does. It allows us to turn on or off features of our repository. Should we allow project boards? Should we allow issues? I can set up labels or rename those labels here if I would like to. And then sort of typically most helpfully here, we can put branch protections here in place. Right now in GitHub, this can be done in the console, or it can be done with external tooling, but there's not a sort of a convenient way to do this just boom with configuration in place. Probot and the Probot settings app solves that problem. If you want to run it and keep it running, you can, but also you can use this action settings here to run it for you. And in essence, here we need a little node here to be to set up here to run this. This is a JavaScript application code. But in essence, this is as simple here as specifying Probot settings, specifying a token here that we can have access, and this will run one time. In this case, it will run on repository creation if we put this workflow here in place, and that will do everything that the Probot settings app can do, set up our branch protections and so forth. There's one catch, though, that I wanted to talk to you about. And the reason I want to mention this catch is you will see this in other areas potentially. That is, that action run needs to have permissions to do that stuff. And we provide, built in with GitHub, this built-in GitHub token, the secrets GitHub token. This is all built in. This is an application token. It's got limited privileges, though. It can read and write the current repository where this runs. It can do things like set labels, because anybody who has write privilege on a repository can do that. But it can't do a bunch of this other stuff. It can't do branch protections. It can't do access. And so for that, we need a little bit more intensive privileges. Two options for that. One that we generally don't recommend, and one we do. The reason I'm talking about this is to share the second. You can use a PAT for this, a personal access token. So a user that's got those privileges, store it in a secret, use it. That'll work, but PATs tend to be long-lived, and they get whatever privileges that user has. So generally, it's better to do this sort of thing, to use another action that will work to generate an app token. So you set up a GitHub app and configure one of those that will grant just the permissions you need. And this action by our colleague Peter Murray here will generate an app token here when it's run, and you can use that here. In the world of Probot settings, what does that look like? Yep, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, well, one thing I wanted to mention, just to touch on when you said PATs are long-lived, another thing being if they leave the company or leave the project or what have you, that PAT will still be there. It may break if they decide to delete it, or if it lives and you're the person who left, you may be in charge of things that you no longer have control over.
Single sign-on can help that a little bit, but yes, again, and PAT invalidation, there are a variety of ways to deal with it, but this is one way to prevent that altogether. So Jonathan, we did have interest in automating our every wish. And I have actually one particular wish that I wish would be automated. So I don't know, oh, sorry, let's bring the slides back up here. There we go. I don't know if you want to hit some of these, or do you want to really hone in on the wish of the hour?
Let's hone in on the wish of the hour. Because, I'm sure from all the talking you've done, you're hungry. You need something to eat. So, those 5%, or let's see. Oh, now it's 10.67%. Perfect. For those individuals who do get hungry, I created an action that allows you to open an issue and type /order pizza. And within your action secrets, you'd store an address, customer, JSON blob. And it would order. Do you want
to just show this to us, Jonathan? Let me stop sharing it. I got to see this.
Let's do this.
All right.
All right.
All you.
Let's go. All right. So pizza time. And pizza time will effectively order Eric a pizza. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open an issue. Eric looks hungry. He's been talking quite a bit. So great. Now let's go ahead and do this. Order pizza. And Eric, you live in the VA area. So Alexandria. Order pizza Alexandria. And Alexandria is referencing a I'll show you in a second, but it's referencing an address that I've stored in my secrets. So I'm going to go to the Actions tab. We're going to see Eric Looks Hungry is running. We have 2, order Alex, meaning Alexandria, or order Munich. Munich was for our other coworker, Lucas. Inside order Alex, starting the workflow run. It starts with setting up job. It's going to set up node because I did specify that in my workflow file. We're ordering pizza. There we go. Pizza has been ordered. We did not set order status to failure because the pizza has been ordered and the job is complete. Eric, you have a large cheese pizza on the way to your house. I hope you're happy because testing this app, you probably gained 50 pounds, the pizza I've sent you.
I am happy. Let's see what else goes on here.
So,
hey, can you kick the share back to me here?
Absolutely can, man.
All right. And let's see what we've got here. A couple of last questions here maybe we should field. Can custom actions include actions from the marketplace? Typically, that's a job for workflows.
Yeah.
Right? So workflows that would glue the other actions together from that standpoint. If you need to encapsulate that kind of functionality in your own action, maybe that's a job for forking an existing one. So again, these are open source, they're available to do that. But I guess caution, actions are a lot better doing single purpose stuff and have that glopped together, if you will, with workflows.
And you know,
so we got Martin coming back.
Yeah, if I could do one thing and just give a quick shout out to Brandon Miller, RA Evangelist. Thanks for your help with that that pizza API. Really appreciate it.
Well, you know, I think it works.
I think so. Oh, that is some quick delivery, man.
The internet. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us today.
That's ridiculous. I can't believe you did that. That's great. So and that's a legit action as well. That's amazing. So
it is, and the repo is public. You folks can go there and see it. It's called it's-pizza-time.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll just grab you a couple of quick questions just before we've got a couple more minutes, so if that's okay. So let's see. Let's grab one here about. Can you talk a little bit more about the Ubuntu image and sort of give some guidance to Alexander about what's actually happening behind the scenes? Maybe a pointer as to where Alexander can actually find out exactly what's happening behind the scenes with that Ubuntu image.
Yeah, so we publish that image, and I think sort of more importantly for any of our images, so the Ubuntu images or Windows images or Mac OS images, we've got a list of what's installed there. And we can, I guess I don't have a good way to dig up that URL. It's out in GitHub Docs. So docs.github.com, and you can see a list of exactly what's published there. Behind the scenes, we are provisioning that. It's a virtual machine image. You get a clean one every time. You're ready to go. And when you're done, we destroy it and go again. Those images have a variety of tools installed. They usually need a little sort of setup for the version of whatever, Ruby or Node or whatever, and that's what those setup actions do. They may install tooling, but typically they don't even need to do that. They're just point symlinks around.
And, you know, just to also mention, in the actions org, github.com/actions, there is a virtual -environments repo. That's where all of these live. And there's a great README there with a lot of information in it.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time today. Now, we've got a ton of questions I see still left in the Q&A panel there. Don't worry, the team have actually gone through. They're making notes of all the questions we haven't had time to answer today, and they'll be getting back in contact with you very shortly and let you know get you some answers to that. But I just want to shout out, thank you very much, Eric and Jonathan. Really appreciate you taking the time. Now, remember, these videos will be available We'll send a link out to your email again, but if you go to infocus.github.com early next week, you'll be able to get back and go look at some of the video recordings of the sessions. And then before we wrap up, if you'd like a deeper dive on anything here, if you've got follow-up questions around actions, or if there's other stuff that your colleagues think of, or you think of when you get home and you finish today, then remember, if you want to just do a book a meeting button, somebody from the team will be in touch with you shortly. And then one last favor I've got for you. This is a different platform, and we're trying a format that's different for you to kind of try and make the most of your time. So if you can go complete the survey, which is in the docs tab, you can click on that. Without further ado, we'll wrap up. Thank you for your time.